you know some people are fearless? They don't just walk through life, they seek challenges. The ones who live for the thrill, who chase adrenaline like it's their lifeblood. The rush of their heart racing, the sweat on their skin, the fear turning into pure energy. It's what makes them feel alive. It's not just about conquering something physically. It's the mental game, the emotional ride that comes with stepping into the unknown. Brian Quintanilla, a curious 13-year-old, was one of those people. He wasn't afraid of caves. He was drawn to them, to the dark, to the tight spaces that made most people tremble with fear. He wasn't like the others in his Boy Scout group, who stuck to the safe, wide passages. He craved something different, something that would make his heart pound in his chest, something that would make him feel something more. It was June of 1992 when Brian and a group of 10 boys ventured into Killian's Cave in West Virginia. The cave wasn't anything special to look at, just a quiet, modest passage hidden in the hills. But to the boys, it was an adventure waiting to happen. Laughter echoed in the cool air, their voices filled with excitement as they explored the cave. Carefree, just living in the moment. Brian, though, he was different. While the others were having fun in the more accessible parts of the cave, he noticed something. An opening. A narrow passage, barely wide enough for him to squeeze through. It wasn't much, just a tight, twisting tunnel that seemed to promise some kind of secret hidden beyond. Something no one else had noticed. Most people would have walked past it, but not Brian. He crawled toward the entrance, his mind racing with curiosity. The passage bent in an L shape, sharp and tight. It didn't look like a path anyone would dare to take, but Brian's eyes sparkled with the thrill of the unknown. He slid into the passage, feeling the rocks dig into his shoulders, his chest pressed against the cold, rough surface. As he crawled deeper, the passage narrowed even further. The air felt thick, but he pushed on, feeling every inch of his body twist as he reached the sharp bend. It hurt, but that pain was nothing compared to the pull of the challenge. He managed to squeeze his legs into an awkward position, hyperextending his knees to push forward. Each move was excruciating, but he was determined. There was something beyond that he needed to reach. Finally, after what felt like forever, Brian made it through the toughest part. He had made it. He thought to himself, "I did it. I'm past the hard part." But the moment he let his body relax, reality hit him like a punch to the gut. The passage had widened just enough for him to realize he was stuck. The sharp bend had locked his legs in place, and he couldn't move forward. Worse, he couldn't go back. He tried to twist and turn, his body unwilling to cooperate. His muscles burned, the pain unbearable. Panic gripped him. Every attempt to move only made it worse. The space felt suffocating, the rocks unforgiving. He was trapped, alone. No one could see him, no one could help. Back outside, the group started to notice something was wrong. They'd come in as a group of 10, but now someone was missing. Brian had been gone too long. The time passed, and the unease started to settle in. They called out his name, retraced their steps, but it was as if the cave had swallowed him whole. They didn't know where he had gone, didn't even know the passage he had entered. When they finally heard his faint, desperate cries echoing back to them, they rushed toward the sound. They found him, wedged tight in the passage, his body contorted in a way no one could have imagined. His legs were stuck in a hyperextended position, his chest bent unnaturally. His breath came in short, shallow bursts. Every time he tried to move, pain shot through him. Brian's friends, though they tried, couldn't do much. They tugged at his legs, yelling for him to try and shift. But the passage refused to give way. His body was trapped, locked in that painful position. Every movement only made it worse. The panic in his eyes was unmistakable, and soon his cries grew louder, full of fear and agony. Word spread quickly, and before long, the group's scout leader, who just so happened to be Brian's mother, arrived. She scrambled through the cave, her heart pounding in her chest. When she saw Brian's feet sticking out of the narrow passage, she froze. The sight of him in that position, his body bent and twisted in pain, made her heart drop. But she didn't have time to fall apart. She had to act. She had to save her son. She called to him softly, her voice trembling with concern but strong with resolve. When Brian answered, she knew he was scared, but at least he was still conscious. She crawled as close as she could, her fingers trembling as she assessed his situation. She quickly realized what needed to be done. The only way to get him out was for him to retrace his steps, the same painful contortions, only in reverse. Brian didn't want to do it. He was already crying, his fear overwhelming him. He didn't want to face that pain again, but his mother's voice, steady and unwavering, left no room for doubt. "You have to do this, Brian. You have to come back out. I'm right here. I'll help you." With tears streaming down his face, he nodded, though his body tensed with dread. Slowly, with his mom's hands gripping his legs, they began the agonizing process. Every inch of movement was torture. His body scraped against the jagged rocks, and the pain was relentless. His knees felt as if they were being torn apart, and all the while, his mother whispered words of encouragement, though her voice was strained, her own heart breaking with each scream that tore through the cave. The others waited outside, helpless, listening to the agonizing sounds of Brian's struggle. But finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Brian's body began to inch backward. His torso emerged from the constriction, and with one last, excruciating pull, he was free. Exhausted and trembling, Brian collapsed into the wider section of the cave, sobbing uncontrollably. But there was no time to rest. Panic surged through him once more, the tightness of the cave pressing in on him, the claustrophobia overwhelming him. With his mother's help, they made their way out as fast as they could, and Brian stumbled out of the cave, the cool night air hitting his skin like a shock. The sunlight outside was blinding after the darkness, and he collapsed onto the grass, gasping for breath. His mother followed soon after, her hands scraped and bloodied, her face a mix of exhaustion and relief. They had made it, but the emotional scars would last far longer than the physical ones. And as Brian lay there on the grass, still trembling, he knew one thing for sure. He would never forget that feeling of being trapped, of fighting for breath, for life itself, in a place where there was no escape. It was the thrill he had once sought, but now he was left with something far darker. The risk had cost him more than he could ever have imagined.